So what was the actual shoot like? Because the whole thing was shot at Pinewood, right?
All shot at Pinewood and in the back lot. There's well, not a back lot. There's a place called Black Park, which is where all the exteriors. It was all shot there. Yeah. And Pinewood were great to us. They were really, because I was an old Pinewood boy. I'd been there. You know, they knew me. We did an all-in deal. They said, use whatever you can find. You know, your art department can go into the scene dock. Use whatever you want to help it make. So, you know, most of those sets that were built were bits and pieces of previous sets that people had, had used. And of course, those days there was no CGI and you get as they say, a couple of cheesy effects, which I fully admit they were, but that's what we could do those days, you know.
I mean, how did the physical effects work? Because obviously there are no computers and things like that.
Very simple. The cameraman was a man called Paul Beeson.
Right.
And Paul Beeson was a genius. He was one of the great old school cameramen. Yeah. And he had worked with what they call in-camera shots. I mean, you know, he could take a piece of film and he could cut out an image on it, and you couldn't believe what he was doing. The big problem was, how do we make the mine sword glow?
Right, yeah.
And why are we going to do that? Paul had the answer. He said, what we do is shall I show you?
Yeah, show us.
Well, this is, if I can reach it, this is the original mine sword. And this is a genuine blade. And as you can see, this is the hand that grasps the mine stone. And the reason it does that will all be revealed in the sequel. This is the mine stone itself. So what Paul did was he had the stone covered in light reflected material. Then in the camera, he had a thing I'd never seen before. It's called a light box, which was mounted on the camera. Right. And it's all to do with something called a nodal point. I have no idea what that means. So when you looked through it, you could see it was glowing, but it would be exactly like it is now. Yeah. And when you developed the film, this was glowing. So that's how he did that effect.
Brilliant.
Lots of the other effects were done by clever, take the wizards who float about. They were done against black screen, off-screen reflections. It was all incredibly old effects that had been done for years and years before we had CGI. Yeah. And he was just a master at it. Yeah. We were very lucky.
So tell us a bit about the sword then, because that is a proper hefty sword. That's one of the things I love about the film, actually, is that all the weaponry looks dangerous, like it looks serious.
This is, this particular sword has a 16th century, genuine 16th century blade in it. And this was given to us by a man called John Waller, who was he was the bowman on the show. You know, he was champion longbow gentleman in this country. And these were made purely, these two, unfortunately the Voltan sword has gone missing. So this is the only sword that's left.
So someone out there has
with the Voltan sword,
in their loft somewhere, under a bed.
Yeah, and if they knew what it was worth, they'd soon get it out. And so this here is this basically a close-up sword. You wouldn't use this for fighting or anything like that. Right. This was the close-up sword. The rest of the swords were made lighter and of a different type of metal, so you could fight with them.
Right.
But I'm not going to tell you why it's like it is or why the stone is in there, because that's all magical stuff. You've got to pay to see, or you might get to read the script beforehand.
Right. Well, let's keep the sword there, because it gives you an air of kind of casual.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Violence.
Apart from the fact I can't lift it.
On set, like, do you have how was the shoot? Was it a quick shoot? Was it like how long were you there?
It was a 6-week shoot.
Oh, okay.
It was not long. We were fortunate. We had some great stunt people that I'd worked with. I was very lucky. I could call upon a lot of people that I'd worked with as a first assistant over the years. So I knew who could do the job, who could get it done in time. So we're very lucky there. We had a great crew. Everybody was very good. The design was very important in terms of costumes. That was very important to me to get, as you can see from the movie, they're way ahead of anything that was being done at the time.
Yeah.
But the shoot, great. No problems at all. No problems with any of the actors. It just went, was very lucky.
Yeah. I was going to ask as well, with the design of the film and the look of the film, the matte paintings that we used.
Oh yeah,
they're incredible. Well, who did those?
I can't remember his name, but he was the #1 matte painter in England, and he worked out at Pinewood Studios. And this guy was clever. He was a genius, and we couldn't afford too many of them. No. But the ones that we've got, I think, were pretty good.
Oh, they make an impact. Yeah. I was reading with it. I was reading there was a couple of like minor, slightly comical accidents and things on set. Is that right? Have I made that up? Is the internet lying to me?
Comical incidents. Probably a lot of them I can't remember, but it was a good shoot. You know, it was. I've been on shoots which have not been good shoots. Yeah. This was a good shoot. There was never any problems. You know.
Yeah.
And I mean, working with someone like Jack Palance was like unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, can you imagine?
Well, no. Tell us what he was like to work with.
Just wonderful. Well, he was a deep thinker.
Right.
He came out of that school in New York, the Actors Workshop.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He was he thought about it a lot. Did I direct him? Probably not. I knew he read the script. He delivered what we expected Voltan to be. There was nothing to say. Yeah. He was easy to work with as well. He was a very nice man. Yeah. Very nice man.
Yeah. And quite intimidating to work with, or quite sort of?
I think I was lucky because as a first AD, I'd had to, I'd worked with Charlton Heston, Dustin Hoffman, Peter Sellers. I'd worked with some pretty heavyweight actors. Yeah. And, so I wasn't intimidated at all. No, I stood my ground.
Yeah, you knew you could deal with it.
Mind you, if he'd have given me one, I don't think I'd.
He's a big guy. He looks like a big guy.
He is a big guy. Yeah, he's 6'2".
Blimey, yeah.
He was a big guy.
Packed a wallop.
Well, he did with that sword at the end.
Yeah. Wherever that is now.
Yeah.